TGCRequiem here. Match 3, Modern Abzan Traverse. Our opponent is an orange, and not just an orange, but an orange. Looks like we're going to be on the draw. Being on the draw, I am okay with this. With an extra bauble trigger and our opponent being on the play, we get an extra draw step. So I am okay with just the one lander here. Going to just assume our opponent is on Shadow Grixis. We're into all sorts of swamp on top. That's perfect. So we can actually draw and then still fetch for like green-white or black-green, whatever we want here. Opponent Thought Scours with the bauble trigger on the stack. Oh, so that's funny. They actually, because I didn't fetch, Thought Scoured me, took away my land, but then drew us into a Verdant. It's a clever play. In the end, it's going to be okay for us. Thought Seas. There's not a whole lot we're doing here. We have a pretty loaded hand. Now that we drew our second creature. Our second, now we drew our second land rather. So they took the Collective Brutality. I think we're just going to go ahead and get a black-white land here. Godless Shrine. Opponent cannot attack us this turn, so I'm not worried about getting a Tarmogoyf down right now. Tarmogoyf we want more for the blocker, so we're going to try and get a Grim Flayer down. Next turn the plan will be to traverse into a land and then play a Tarmogoyf. Assuming this Inquisition's going after the Fatal Push. Assumption on my part that my opponent has a creature in hand that they want to live, although if their creature is like a Gurmag Angler or a Tasigur, then in that case, okay, so Traverse makes sense. Cut off the land, then I have to make the choice between Fatal, well actually Fatal Push obviously isn't going to kill their Angler, so just needing a big Tarmogoyf, and they shrunk it. Bajuka Bog is okay here. So we're going to take this opportunity to cast it on them. That way we don't make our Tarmogoyfs too small. This is a turn late here, but essentially fine. This allows us to cast Lingering Souls next turn if we need to. We cast another Tarmogoyf and a Fatal Push if the opponent goes for a Death Shadow. Like we're getting another Thoughtseize, so I would say Fatal Push, so they're definitely going to be throwing down a Death Shadow, I would assume, here. Otherwise they'd be going after the Tarmogoyf. And with no land, okay, perfect. We can't trade any of these creatures off without them attacking into us, which brings the question up, do we think we just end up going with Lingering Souls here, and the next turn we hope to hit Tarmogoyf and Lingering Souls. Alright, so the opponent's attacking with the Death Shadow here. If we peel removal, well, see, we don't know what creatures they have. They could put themselves to 6. They could Street Wraith up to 8. They could have a removal and fetch, which just destroys a double block. So I think we're actually just going to block with one of the spirits. Ideally, we're going to have access to a few more chump blocks out of Lingering Soul tokens. We just need to be able to start putting pressure. I mean, Liliana is basically the best draw we can get. Liliana of the Veil, that is. I suppose Path is technically better. Inquisition is alright as well. If we can make our turn, what do we have? We have Artifact, Land, Sorcery, Instant. We just don't have Creature. We could Inquisition ourselves, throwing our Tarmogoyf. But I think I would rather Inquisition our opponent here. Stubborn Denial is fine. They can attack our hand more than they can attack our graveyard, so I think we attack with both creatures here, right? I mean, if they have a Fatal Push, that is a little problematic. But puts some pressure on to where they may have to hold up blocks next turn. Presumably they go after the Grim Flayer because they don't want us to be able to filter our draws. They do have a Fatal Push. And getting the Tarmogoyf means the Grim Flayer gets eaten alive too, but at least our second Tarmogoyf is big enough to handle the next Grim Flayer. That's frustrating. That is why the Shadow decks can be so good at times. I would put my opponent on not being able to put their life total any lower, though. I would be willing to Tarmogoyf and Spirit block a Death Shadow if the opponent attacked, in the hopes to eat the Shadow. Actually, no, I think the fact that we can actually fight the Gurmag Angler. So the opponent, okay. What do we got? Snapcaster? Oh, they just have Fatal Push. So we're just basically boned here. They just drew everything they needed. We're not even going to block at this point. Can't get enough out of that. I suppose it would have been worth blocking. The opponent just has to draw a Snapcaster Mage, basically, or any piece of removal. We're just going to concede here. There's no way we can come back from this at this point. Unfortunately, the opponent did just draw literally everything that they needed there to win. It happens. What are you going to do? Alright, so I think again we want Spellbound. The surgical extractions are pretty good. Liliana the Veil is very good. I think Damnation, Maelstrom Pulse all come in, and I think we just cut the brutalities and probably about that. We could potentially bring in Fulminator Mage. I just don't know that there's anything else I'd rather cut. I suppose one Fatal Push might be worth it, but sometimes that Fatal Push gets you through the Snapcaster Mage. So I'm good with this. Do think, looking back, maybe I'd have been better off to just jam creatures every turn. Maybe I should have waited. I mean, I don't know that it would have turned out a whole lot different. If I had blocked and tried to double block a creature, the Fatal Pushes were going to take care of me then as well. Alright, so we are on the play. Liliana's good. I'm not really concerned about Thought Seizing them turn 1 here. They may have some hand disruption. I'd almost rather Thought Seize them turn 2 once they've drawn an extra card, maybe Thought Scour or Serum Visions. So I think we're just going to lead on Treetop Village. Throw out the Bauble. And then on their end step, we'll probably, assuming that they fetch, if they don't, I'll just hold on to it. Snapcaster Mage. So now we can cast this Thought Seize into a Stubborn Denial in case they had Stubborn Denial held up specifically for this. They are actually running a Tamer Battle Rage. How about that? So Snapcaster potentially threatens Liliana. They can go down to 17, 15. Shadow's not particularly threatening right now. Tamer Battle Rage is not particularly threatening. Fatal Push threatens Treetop Village, potentially under control. I do think we're going to take the Shadow, and this is just on the hopes that we basically hit a surgical extraction, or so they're going to fetch away that Snapcaster that would have been on top. My Thought Scour themselves. So we do know that they don't have access to Island. That could come into play. Verdant Catacombs, perfect. So so long as they didn't draw Stubborn Denial, we're looking really good. Oh man, Inquisition. So long as they didn't draw Inquisition or Stubborn Denial, we're looking really good with this Liliana. At least we'll be able to start throwing out some Lingering Souls. Yeah, there's no way that Liliana's making it out of there. Opponent did not play their Blood Crypt, surprisingly. If we can get them to start wasting Fatal Pushes on Spirit Tokens, we're A-okay with that. We're going to look to surgically extract Death Shadow here. May have Stubborn Denial up now, and that's fine. We just don't want the Lingering Souls getting countered. They've got a fistful of Fatal Pushes plus a Snapcaster Mage. Looks like they're running 2 Gurmag Angler and 1 Tassiger. So they're really down to essentially 3 threats with their Street Race. They do have 2 Kolaghan's Commands in the Snapcaster. So I do feel like we would be hard-pressed to lose this game, so let's hope we don't embarrass ourselves. And then we'll just go ahead and fire off the next Lingering Souls, and then I think we're just going to traverse here. If we get Kalitas, Scavenging Ooze, what is the best card we could be getting here? I think Grimflayer. I know that our opponent has enough cards to eat all of our stuff. I think Scavenging Ooze actually is the best of all these creatures, though. Everything's going to die to their Fatal Pushes anyway. Might as well get some utility out of trying to eat their graveyard up. So this is less a Thought Scour plus Fatal Push. I think we just play Liliana here. And then we're going to probably just pitch the Damnation, because I just can't imagine that we're going to get to that point. Assume they'll toss a Fatal Push, maybe a Temur Battle Rage. So they're going to throw the Snapcaster down, hope to get a chip shot in at Liliana, maybe draw a Kolaghan's Command and finish the Liliana off. So we know about 3 Snapcasters in the deck, or 3 Fatal Pushes in our opponent's hand, and that is it. So no Kolaghan's Command. We know the opponent doesn't have any lightning bolts. And the opponent is going to have to start spending their Fatal Pushes on these tokens soon. So I don't think we need Liliana enough to hold any of these spirits back. We want to eat as many Fatal Pushes as we can so that way the Scavenging Ooze can, well, either the Scavenging Ooze or the, Kalidas here can kind of take the game over. Oh, that was a mistake. So I actually tapped my mana wrong, meant to hold up Fatal Push. Suppose Fatal Push still really doesn't do a whole lot. Kalidas is more important, I think, at this point. And this way, the Snapcaster, they have to spend the Fatal Push to try and get through the Scavenging Ooze. At this point, we will just eat I think we're just going to eat a Street Wraith. We just want to gain a little bit of life to give us a little bit of a cushion. Hopefully get our opponent to this point where, you know, we can activate Treetop for lethal, or I think we're aware of one more Fatal Push in our opponent's hand at this point. Opponent's targeting a Serum Visions here. Trying to filter their draws. Put one card on the bottom, thinking about the second card. Put it on the bottom as well. That's typically a good sign for us. With only the 1 mana up, so I think we're good with actually pitching Kalidas here. We can play Grim Flayer, and then that should theoretically opponent pitched a Thoughtseize. We could fire up the Treetop Village here. They have to fire this off now, though, because then they can't crack their fetch. We do 2 damage. Play our Flayer, and they're going to need a very good draw to have enough blockers to handle our 4 attackers this next turn. suppose Snapcaster Mage is really what does it. Yep. Alright. Nothing I want to change based on how those games played out. Again, there's always the possibility Fulminator Mage might have some game, but I don't think there's anything here we really want to pull. I suppose Abrupt Decay is a little weaker here. There's not a whole lot of targets that we can get with it besides the shadows. There's really nothing that we can get outside of shadows. So actually maybe we cut an Abrupt Decay. Still gives us 5 pieces of removal for the shadow, but maybe we cut a push as well. I mean, we typically want to outgrind our opponent, but if our... See, Abrupt Decay can get through a Stubborn Denial, though. Yeah, I think actually let's go this route. Their deck's a little better at filtering themselves. Into their lands, so may not be a huge concern. I'm pretty good with this hand. I mean, there's a good chance the opponent still tries to hand disruption us. I don't even mind surgically extracting a fetch land if that's how this starts off. If the opponent thought seizes us, we can certainly surgical extraction the fetch. Well, that is not gonna do it. We can play around the surgical extraction a little bit now. I have to assume that Liliana's going here. Yeah. So we're hoping maybe the opponent fires off a Fatal Push here. We would gladly surgically extract the Fatal Push. Looks like the opponent is going to Thought Scour. Question now is, do we go after Death Shadow or Fatal Push? I still think we just kind of outgrind the opponent if they have no Death Shadows. They may have a surgical extraction of their own, so they had one in hand. Fortunately for us, they did not have the blue mana up. So again, just a quick snippet here. So I did that wrong. They do anything different in the sideboard? 1 Angler, 2 Tassiger this time. But still, just like the 3 threats. Unfortunately, I think we're gonna see a... Well, they don't have red mana, so Kolaghan's Command, we might be able to get this... Oh, nope, there's their red mana now. So now they'll be able to Kolaghan's Command the Grim Flare. Probably make us discard a card. Might be the Forest at this point. Actually, I think it's going to be the Fatal Push. Lands are going to be more important to us over the long run. Start to attack their black mana. with a Fulminator Mage. They're red mana. So they have one more Kolaghan's Command and one more Terminate, so I don't think attacking the red mana is worth it. I do think right now, while we can get the window through where there is no no Stubborn Denial up, we resolve this. And we do have the possibility now of Fulminator Maging and attacking like one of their Watery Graves next turn. So this is actually a no-brainer at this point. We're going to just stick Liliana and start going to town. They have so few threats. That there's a fairly good chance we can ultimate Liliana before they can do anything about it. Yep, the opponent just concedes there. I mean, we certainly could play the match out and see how it goes, but you know, they kind of have a narrow window, especially having lost their shadows. They're only going to be able to produce so many threats. It's understandable. Plus, we're going to start backing up with extra Lingering Souls to close the clock out fast. So, not surprising. Again, part of the reason, as we said earlier, they would play this deck is it has a good matchup here. And while I always forget to do this, that was 2-1 in our favor. And that puts us up to 2-1 in the league. Really feeling like we should have been 3-0 at this point, but played a little sloppy in the previous game. So, or the previous match. But anyway, if you enjoy the show, enjoy what you're seeing, feel free to subscribe. Off on the left, you're going to have a link to the next match in the league, and off to the right, a link to the playlist with more Abzan Traverse. Thank you. Have a good night.